بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Okay, so moving on and continuing with Sifaat. Let's do a quick review of the Sifaat once more. So of course we've covered Makharij, right? Remember, Tajweed is Makharij and Sifaat, right? How many Makharij can someone respond? Can someone respond and tell me how many Makharij there are?
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes.
There are 17 in total.
Okay.
From throat, 3.
That's fine. That's good. We've done the details. That's good enough.
Okay.
For that. I'm just going to mute everyone here. You guys can unmute when I ask you. Okay. So yes, so alhamdulillah, that's correct. We have 17 makharij. Okay. 28 or 29 different letters regarding, depending on how you count it. And then we have Sifaat. Sorry. So in order to know Tajweed, you have to know Sifaat, Makharij and Sifaat. So Makharij we've done, alhamdulillah, in detail. And you can refer back to the previous recordings if you're just joining live or you're joining new, sorry. Okay, then we have Sifaat here. So you can see here. Let me use spotlight, there we go. So Sifaat, there are two types, Sifaat Lazima and Sifaat Aridah, right? Lazima is intrinsic or permanent. Okay, meaning that if you take this sifa or this quality out of the letter, then the letter will not exist anymore. Okay, whereas sifat aridah is temporary or circumstantial, and this is what we're going to cover today, inshallah. So we've already done sifat lazima, and again, you can break that into two categories. You have mutadadda, those which have opposites, and ghayru mutadadda, those which do not have opposites. The mutadadda, those which have opposites, of course, each letter is only going to have one pair or one of the opposites, right? You can't have two opposites in one letter. And we've already done this. So we have hams and jahar. Hams, again, is dealing with the breath, okay? The breath is flowing. Jahar, the breath is imprisoned. And of course, you have to revise again and again, okay? If you don't revise, you're going to get lost and you're going to get left behind. Yes, Ustad Nabila has sent the link there to previous lessons. So you can go ahead and watch those, inshallah. So hams, of course, is when the breath flows, and the mnemonic to memorize that, and of course I encourage you to do this, is fahathahu shakhsun sakat. So we have 10 letters here, and you've already done this, so you can place a hamza before it and place a sukoon on the letter and just say af, ath, ash, else, and you should hear, or you should feel actually the breath flowing on your hand. Whereas jahar, for example, ba, you're not going to feel the breath on your hand. Ab, up, you're not going to feel it. And then we have the other pair of opposites, shidda and rikhwa. Shidda, again, in rikhwa is dealing with the sound, not the breath. Shidda is when the sound is imprisoned, it's stopped, and we have the letters ajidu, qattin, bakat. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 letters here. Of these 8, kaf and ta will belong to hams. So as we mentioned, first the sound will stop and then flow. Ak, at, Allahu akbar. Okay. And rikhwa or rakhawa is when the sound is flowing. It literally means softness. And of course, it's very important to know the literal meaning as well as the technical meaning, okay? Like tajweed literally means good. It comes from the word jim, like jud, jim wal dal. And then technical meaning is, of course, as we learned, to pronounce makharij, sifat, and so on. Okay, so technically or literally, what literally means linguistically, right? So what does it mean in the Arabic language? That's it. So rikhwa and rakhawa. Okay, and then we have something in between. It's called tawassut or bayniya. It's in between shidda and rikhwa, meaning the sound does not flow like rikhwa and it's not imprisoned like shidda. Okay, and these are lin umar. Okay. And then we have next pair, isti'la and istifal. You can memorize them in this mnemonic. Khussa, dal, din, qil, the 7 letters. And of course here the back of the tongue is raised and it causes the letter to be read with a full mouth, okay, or a thick sound. It says Tafkheem. Opposite of that is istifal, the tongue lies flat. Therefore, there's no heaviness, or it's read with a, you can say an empty mouth, like ba, ta, ma, right? You say maliki, you don't say maliki. If you say maliki, then you've done tafkheem. You've made that letter heavy or the alif heavy after the meme where it's not supposed to be heavy. Okay. Then we have itbaq and infitah. So we have the 4 letters, sad, dad, ta, and dha. These make these letters, this quality of itbaq makes these 4 letters even more heavier. Okay, so basically these 4 are already part of isti'la, if you recall here. And then we have from these 7, 4 of them have itbaq, meaning itbaq means the whole of the tongue goes like this, okay? So it rises up and it's basically pressing against the roof of the mouth, creating like a plate, okay, making the sound very heavy, like pa or saw, okay? Opposite of that, of course, is istifad, as we mentioned, infitah, sorry. So we have itbaq, and then we have...
Excuse me.
Yeah.
In the book, I saw Muttada Sifaat, and there were 2 more written there, Azlaq and Asmat.
Asmat and Idlaq, yeah. Thank you, Jazakumullah khair, for pointing that out. Of course, though, they're, you know, so this is a book for beginners. It's a primer book, okay? So a lot of details, or some details may be left out, okay, which is fine. Like Asmat and Idlaq do not necessarily, I mean, it's not really going to affect how you pronounce the letter, okay? It's something that you learn and you understand, and that's fine. So it's not like, practically speaking, it's not going to affect your pronunciation. And that's why the author did not include that in this book.
Okay, thank you.
But of course, inshallah, as we continue forward, we're going to study advanced books like, inshallah, I mean, the hope is, inshallah, we'll see how it goes. Tuhfat al-Atfal, which is completely in Arabic. But of course, you don't need to know Arabic. We'll break it down line by line. It's a poem, and it basically allows you to retain all the rules, right? And then we have Al-Jazari, of course, and then we can go even beyond that to other texts, for example. So infitah is, of course, in all the other letters, meaning the 7 letters of isti'la. We have qaf, ghayn, and kha also have infitah, meaning they're not as heavy or not, not as heavy as itbaq, okay? Then we have غير متضادة. So those sifat which are, they're lazima, meaning they're permanent or intrinsic. If you take them out of the letter, they're gonna, you know, the letter's not going to exist. But obviously they don't have opposites. We've done this. Safir is in sad, sin, and za. It makes a whistling sound. Leen is when the waw sakina or ya sakina is preceded by a letter which has a fatha like an aw and ay, and it should be pronounced with softness. Okay, so you should be able to extend it like khawf. If you try to read it hard or harsh, you know, opposite of soft, it won't allow you to flow. It won't allow the letter to flow nice and easily. Okay, so it'll be like khawf, okay, or like shay. Now it should be nice and soft. Shay. So here it says without much exertion or difficulty. Inhiraf is literally means to incline. The makhraj of these is inclining to another letter. It's found in lam and ra. Takrar or takreer means to repeat, and it's in the ra. And of course, in this sifa, it should be avoided. We do not want to repeat, and so the sound will be like ar. We want to avoid that and try to eliminate that. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So see, it says it requires us to hide or minimize and do not exaggerate. Don't say Ar-Rahman. At-Tafashi is in sheen. The sound is spread out. And Qalqala is in the 5 letters of Qutbu Jaddin. So there's a disturbance in the makhraj because these letters are very hard. Okay, they're very strong. Therefore, they cause a disturbance in the makhraj. Okay, so it seems like there's an echo. Okay, and I explained last time just to understand, it's like a bounce. Like a ball when it bounces, apple, alto, and so on. Okay. Istitala is in the bod, so the sound is lengthened from the beginning of the makhraj till its end. So starting from the molar to the premolar, all of it will be lengthened. Al, okay, al. That's why you hear that little sound before it. Sifat Aridah are temporary. Okay, which means sometimes they're found, sometimes not, or circumstantial, and they are 11 in number. So this is what we're going to study today, inshallah. And of course, this will take us to the end of the book. Okay, we're not going to finish all of it today. Perhaps we'll try to do as much as we can, inshallah. We'll see. So there are 11 in number. إظهار, إدغام, إقلاب, إخفاء, تفخيم, ترقيق, مد, قصر, حركات, سكون, and sakt. And these, the 11 sifat are found in the following lines of poetry by Sheikh Ibrahim Al-Samanudi in Al-La'ali Al-Bayan. Okay, so if you can memorize this, try to do so. If you memorize this, you'll know all these sifat. Aridah, إظهار ندغام وقلب وكذا إخفى وتفخيم ورق أخذا والمد والقصر مع التحرك وأيضا السكون والسكت حكي. Now, how do you read this? So it's not إظهار إدغام. Okay, it's إظهار ندغام وقلب وكذا. I'll read it one more time. And of course, it's recorded. If you can read along with me silently, try to do so. إظهار ندغام وقلب وكذا إخفى excuse me إخفى وتفخيم ورق أخذا. So here there's no hamza there, right? And it's because of the poetry, right? Sometimes in Arabic, of course, it happens a lot because of the rhyme of the poetry, the wazn of it, right? Sometimes they have to drop certain letters and so on and do stuff like that. إخفى وتفخيم ورق أخذا. One more time. إظهار ندغام وقلب وكذا إخفى وتفخيم ورق أخذا والمد والقصر مع التحرك وأيضا see أيضا, it's not وأيضا السكون, rather you bring the noon there. وأيضا السكون والسكت حكي. Okay, so إظهار is إظهار, إدغام إدغام, قلب is actually إقلاب, كذا is just there to fill the poem there. إخفاء, again, like I said, there's a hamza missing there. Tafkheem is tafkheem. رق is tarqeeq. So tafkheem, heavy, tarqeeq, light. And of course, the author brought here riq because of the poetry, right? Because if you bring tarqeeq here, it's going to break the wazn, break the meter of the poem. والمد is mad, qasr is qasr, مع التحرك. تحرك is haraka. أيضا is just extra. السكون is sukun, and sekt is sekt. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Here's the summary of Sifaat. We have Aridah lazima, lazima mutadadda, there are 8, غير mutadadda, there are 7, Aridah, there are 11. Okay, so we'll begin inshallah with Tafkheem and Tarqeeq. So here we're jumping to what? We're jumping to number 5 and 6, Tafkheem and Tarqeeq. Tafkheem literally means to make something fat or full. In contrast, the opposite is Tarqeeq, which means to make something thin. The letters of the Arabic alphabet can be divided into 3 categories, okay? Number 1, those which are always read with Tafkheem or full mouth, always heavy. Number 2, those which are always read with Tarqeeq, empty. And those which are sometimes read with Tafkheem and sometimes with Tarqeeq, sometimes heavy, sometimes light. Those letters which are always read with Tafkheem, we've done this, it's easy. They're the letters which have the sifa of isti'la, right? The 7 heavy letters, These 7 will always be read with Tafkheem. They'll always be read with a full mouth or heavy. And then those letters which are sometimes read with Tafkheem, sometimes with Tarqeeq, we have these 3. So let's just jump down here because this is easier. Those letters which are always read with Tarqeeq, they're the remaining letters of the Arabic alphabet. Okay. So the author says the letters which are read with only Tafkheem and Tarqeeq can easily be understood. Right? So Tafkheem is the 7 heavy letters, Tarqeeq is everything else. What needs to be learned, however, is the second group of the letters, the alif, the lam in the name of Allah Azza wa Jal, and the ra, when they should be read with Tafkheem and when they should be read with Tarqeeq. So this is basically what we're going to discuss, because the other 2 categories are very easy. So we have the alif, the lam in the word Allah, and when you're saying this, just out of etiquette or adab, we should say the lam in the word Allah. Okay, don't say the lam in Allah. Okay, the lam in the word Allah, and the ra. So the alif, number 1, does not have the quality of Tafkheem or Tarqeeq, but is dependent on the letter before it. If the alif is preceded, meaning the letter before the alif is a full mouth letter, it will be read with a full mouth. And if it's preceded, meaning before it, there's an empty mouth letter, it will be read with an empty mouth. Examples, look at qala. Qaf. Is that a heavy letter or a light letter? Someone tell me quickly.
Heavy.
Thank you. So the alif will be heavy or light?
Sorry?
If the qaf is heavy, the alif, will it be heavy or light?
Heavy.
Heavy.
So the alif is dependent on the letter before it. Therefore, you're going to say qala and not qila. Okay. Look at zada. Is zai. It is zai here. Is it a heavy or empty letter?
Empty.
Good. And the alif therefore should be
Empty.
there we go. So you're going to say zada and not zoda. Okay. Or for example, I gave you the example in Fatiha. Maliki. Mim is a what? A light letter. Therefore, the alif will also be light because it's dependent on the letter before it, i.e. the mim. Therefore, it will be maliki and not moliki. Is that understood, everyone?
Yes.
So far, I got 2 responses. So everyone else understands it?
Yes.
Teacher.
Yeah.
I'm doing my class now.
I write in the notebook. I don't understand. I'm new.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Yeah, I said I write in notebook this question, or how can't you?
You have a question?
Yeah, I said I writing in the notebook.
You can ask the question if you want now, that's fine.
Yeah. How can this writing? I write in the notebook.
I'm sorry, I don't get what you're saying. Which notebook? Oh, you mean the chat?
I said this question I write in the notebook, or
I'm sorry, I don't get what you're saying. Are you talking about the chat box?
no, I said this I reading or writing.
Sorry, I don't understand. Ustad Nabil,
Writing or reading?
Okay, so what we can do is we can share this ebook with you. So I'll share the notes with you on the side, so you don't need to write any notes. Okay.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, so I'm just dropping the link on the side.
Okay.
Okay, so your question was if you want to make notes. Yeah, so this book is available. It's online, PDF, and the link has been sent out and it's sent again right here. So you have that link there. You can click on that and download the book, inshallah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you
Okay,
so
so
much.
note here, the tafkheem letters, full mouth letters, are not the letters of isti'la only, but
Okay.
so okay, so the tafkheem letters are not the letters of isti'la only, but if the alif is preceded by a ra, right, this is what we're going to cover, then too it will be, I'm sorry, please, whoever is talking, can you just mute your mic?
Okay.
Okay, but if the alif is preceded by a ra, then too it will be read with tafkheem, heavy. Look at the example, siratun. Okay, so look here, there's an alif. Before that, there is a ra. Okay.
Okay.
We have to, so of course we have to understand the rules of ra. Okay, so this is what we're going to cover. I don't know today, maybe next time we'll see. Obviously, the rules of ra is quite long. Okay, so okay, I'm going to mute this here. Okay, there we go. So the rules of ra, inshallah, we're going to have to study, of course. It's not that complicated. It's just long, right? There's many exceptions, so you have to kind of, go back and revise and whatnot. But if you look here, the ra here will be read heavy. Siratun, okay? And likewise, firaqun. Also, the alif here will be heavy because the ra is heavy. So just keep this in mind for now. If the letter before the alif is heavy, regardless of what it is, if it's isti'la or istara, whatever, then the alif will also be heavy because it's dependent on the letter before it. Okay, the example, the ra is also tafkheem. Okay, so nice summary. If preceded by full mouth letter, this is what I told you, read with tafkheem, heavy. If preceded by empty, read with tarqeeq. Okay, and this is tafkheem, not takhfeem. Okay, just so you don't get confused. Okay, now we move on to the lam in the name of Allah. The lam is normally read with tarqeeq. Why? Because we know the lam. I'm sorry, I usually want to ask questions here, but there's some noise there. So I'm just going to go quickly ahead and then inshallah I'll open up the mics again. So anyways, the lam here, the makhraj of lam, of course, is from the side of the tongue, from premolar to premolar, the tongue touching the roof of the mouth, right? You get lam, al. So normally it's read with tarqeeq. We know that. La, it's never law, right? Unless, we'll see, inshallah. So however, the lam, which appears in the name of Allah, is sometimes read with tarqeeq and sometimes with tafkheem. Keep in mind, this is only in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning that everywhere else in the Quran, the lam will be what? It will be tarqeeq, empty. If the lam in the name of Allah is preceded, now keep this in mind, okay? Try to understand this, because this principle or this rule here also applies to many of the rules of the ra, which we'll study. So if the lam in the name of Allah is preceded by a fatha or a dhamma, it will be read with tafkheem. Again, fatha or dhamma. Look here, Allah. The hamza has a fatha before the word Allah. Therefore, the lam in the word Allah will also be heavy, Allah, and not Allah. Okay. In Rasulullah, the lam has a dhamma before the word Allah. Therefore, the word Allah will also again be, the lam in the word Allah will also be heavy. Rasulullah. Okay. And if it's preceded by a kasra, it will be read with tarqeeq, empty mouth, billah, fillah, and so on. Lillah. But if it has a fatha or dhamma like tallah, it will be heavy. Okay, summary. The lam in the word Allah, if preceded by a fatha or dhamma, preceded means that the letter before it, okay, as a fatha or dhamma, it will be read with tafkheem. What will be read with tafkheem? The lam in the word Allah. If it has a kasra before it, it will be read with tarqeeq, empty mouth, light, and so on. So you'll say fillah, billah, bismillah. You're not going to say bismillah, right? Okay. Before we move on here to the letter ra, there's a common question which comes, or not a question, but sometimes some people have difficulties reading the word Allah or the lam, right, making it heavy. So look here. Okay, I'm gonna unmute you guys here. How do I do that here? Okay. So I think you guys can unmute now. So someone unmute and read this word here.
Law.
Law. Law.
Law.
Okay, one at a time.
Law.
Okay,
Law.
okay, thank you. Someone else?
Law.
Okay, keep going.
No.
Okay, so
Law.
okay, thank you. That's good. Yeah. So if you can, I guess it differs on the pronunciation and so on. But in English language, normally the lam here is the lam. Sorry, the L here is heavy. Right? The law. You say the law, right? And you don't say the law, right? You don't the law. Obviously, there are different this example. Okay. Anyways, I mean, if you understood it, then obviously in English, right? Then we do have a heavy. This is my point here, that the L can also be heavy as well, like law, for example. Okay. Let me get rid of this here. Ah, no, I didn't. Okay. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna move forward. Okay, does anyone have any questions at this point? We finished, alhamdulillah, we finished the first part of it, the alif. Any questions?
No. No, alhamdulillah.
If anyone has any questions, you can ask right now. If not, we're going to move on, inshallah. Okay, so I think everyone is okay. It's not too difficult to understand. So now we have the letter ra. Okay, so this is a little bit longer. You just have to focus a little bit. Okay, so the ra will be found in one of three conditions. Ra mutaharrika, if you recall back to the terminologies at the beginning of the book. Mutaharrik means what? Someone tell me.
Something with a haraka on it. Fatha, kasra, dhamma.
Thank you. That's perfect. Yeah. And then we have number two, ra sakina, which means ra with a sukoon, preceded by a mutaharrik, meaning the letter before it has a fatha dhamma kasra. Or number 3, ra sakina preceded by sakin, which is preceded by mutaharrik. We're going to go in detail. Okay, so number 1 is we're going to focus on ra mutaharrika. Ra mutaharrika, if the ra has a, again, if you remember the rules of the lam in the word Allah, it's the same thing. If the ra has a fatha or a dhamma, it will be read with tafkheem, full mouth. Like rabbaka, the ra has a fatha, rabbaka. You don't say rabbaka. Or rubama, you don't say rubama, it's heavy, rubama. But if it has a kasra, it will be read with tarqeeq. You say rijalun, you don't say rijalun, okay? A note here, this is the exact same thing. It doesn't matter if it's mushaddad or not. Mushaddad means the letter has a shadda, okay? So the same rule will apply. If it has a fatha or dhamma, it will be read with tafkheem. If it has a kasra, tarqeeq. So look here, sirran, it doesn't matter, the ra has a fatha. It doesn't matter if it has a shadda on it or not, it's going to be heavy. Sirwan and sirrun. Here, the ra has a kasra, therefore it will be dhurriyatan and not dhurriyatan. Okay, light. Whereas these two, common mistake here, people make the ra here light and say sirrun. It should be sirrun and sirran. Okay. Okay, there's a note here. Try to understand this if you can. If not, you'll get it later, inshallah. Ra mumala, okay, I have to explain what mumala means, is that ra in which imala or inclination has taken place, okay? It will always be read with tarqeeq, meaning light. In ra mumala, the fatha inclines towards the kasra and the alif towards the ya. So if you can try to picture this. Okay, let's take the ra. If you put an alif after it, it's like straight up ra, right? Whereas when you're doing kasra, like with a ya after, it's ri, like straight down, right? So you have ra and ri, okay? So here it says the fatha inclines towards a kasra. So it's kind of like this angle here. If you can see this picture, it's like this angle. It's not straight up, not straight down, that angle there in the middle between straight and down, okay? Just to try to visualize it. So you're going to say re, like this, re. So it's not ra, it's not ri, it's re, okay? And this is it only happens in one place in the narration of Hafs, okay? Hafs is the most predominant recitation of the Quran, okay? So I would say about 95, maybe even 97%, Allahu alam, right, of the world recites in this riwayah or this qira'ah. Okay, so we have different qira'at, we have different readings of the Quran. All are acceptable, of course. They're all the Quran. Okay, they bring more meaning to the Quran. They're not they don't contradict themselves. Yeah, they bring more meaning, basically. Okay, so if someone comes, like someone asked today, it was Sister Nabila. She asked, she wanted to learn Warsh. Right? That's a different qira'ah, predominant in, for example, Egypt. Okay, so if someone comes and reads Warsh in the Salah, in the prayer, or if someone comes and reads in Hamza, for example, Qira'ah of Hamza, all are acceptable, inshallah. It's just something that you have not heard, so don't be too quick to, obviously tell those people that they're wrong. Unless, of course, they're reading completely wrong and their pronunciation is wrong, but that's something else. Anyways, so there's only one word in the narration of Hafs, okay, which is recited with imala. This is in Surah Hud, okay? It's in this word here, Bismillahi majreha. So you don't say majraha here, we say majreha, majreha, re, and not ra and not ri. We say re, okay? Majreha. So that's the only place, and this is telling you that in this case, the ra will be tarqeeq, light. So it's not going to be majreha, it's going to be light, majreha. Okay. Alrighty, so that was scenario number 1. Very easy. Okay, if the ra has a fatha dhamma, heavy. If it has a kasra, light, done. Now we have ra sakina preceded by mutaharrik. Again, the same rule. If the ra has a fatha or a dhamma, it's going to be heavy. If it has a kasra, it's going to be light. Look here. Yarji'un, we have a ra with a sukoon before it. There's a we have a ra with a sukoon before it. There's a letter which has a fatha, therefore the ra is heavy. Here we have a ra sukoon letter before it, dhamma, therefore it's going to be heavy. Here there's a fatha before it, here there's a dhamma, therefore it's going to be heavy tafkheem. يرجعون يرجعون القمر التكاثر. Okay, we don't say التكاثر or القمر or يرجعون or يرجعون. It's going to be heavy. And if it's preceded by a kasra, it will always be read with tarqeeq. فرعون, we don't say فرعون, we say فرعون. And al-maqabir and not al-maqabir. In Surah Al-Takathur, حتى زرتم المقابر, bir and not bir. Okay. Another word commonly read incorrectly sometimes is Maryam. Okay, let me write it here. Okay, so we have a ra with a sukoon preceded by a meme with a fatha. Therefore, what's going to happen? Someone tell me quickly. Is it going to be heavy or light?
Heavy.
Heavy, heavy, yes.
And if it had a dhamma, it's going to be heavy. If it had a kasra, it's going to be light like Fir'aun. Okay, so here you're going to say Maryam and not Maryam. Okay? Maryam and not Maryam. Okay. All right. Note. This rule is applied whether stopping on the ra or continuing, as long as the ra remains sakin. Okay, so as long as there's a sukoon on the ra, that's fine. It doesn't matter if it's continuing wasl or stopping. However, if during wasl means to continue. If you remember way back when we did the 4 ways of combining isti'adh and basmala, do you guys remember that? Or
Yes.
Okay, good. So try to revise that, inshallah. Anyways, if during wasl continuing the ra gains a haraka, then the rules of ra mutaharrika will apply. Okay, so if you're continuing and suddenly the ra gets a fatha, you're going to read it heavy. If it gets a kasra, you're going to read it light, and that's it, easy. Okay, now we have 3 exceptions to this rule. This is where it gets a little bit complicated. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to jump to the 3rd scenario. Okay, so the ra sakina. So the ra sakin, it's preceded by a letter with a sukoon, which is preceded by a letter which has a haraka. Okay, so we have a ra sakina. Okay, or let's take it this way. Okay, so ra with a fatha or dhamma is going to be heavy. If it has a kasra, it's going to be light. Done. Now, if the ra has a sukoon, where do we look? We look to the letter before it. If the letter before it has a fatha or dhamma, it's going to be heavy. If it has a kasra, it's going to be light. Fir'aun. However, now, if the ra has a sukoon, before it, the letter also has a sukoon, then where do we go? We go to the letter even before it. Okay, this is what it's talking about. So if the mutaharrik has a fatha or dhamma, it will be read with tafkheem. So look here. Ra. Okay, you're going to say, well, look here, the ra has a kasra. Well, we're talking about when we're stopping. Okay, so let's say you put a sukoon here, and a sukoon here, and a sukoon here. So let's say the ra has a sukoon. Where do we look to? We look to the letter before. The sad also has a sukoon. What do I do now? I go to the letter before it. So there's a ayn. The ayn has a fatha, therefore the same rule will apply. It's going to be read heavy, wal asr, and not wal asr. Look here, ra is sukoon, letter before has sukoon. I go to the letter before, has a dhamma, heavy. Khusr, and not khusr. If it has a kasra, it will be read with tarqeeq. Ra is a sukoon, the letter before it has sukoon, the letter before it has a kasra, therefore light. Tarqeeq, dhikr, 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 and not dhikr, dhikr. Now I'm kind of emphasizing, exaggerating. It's read like dhikr, dhikr, right? There's no movement on the kaf. Likewise, wal asr, common mistake people will do, they'll make some movement on the sad and say wal asr. They'll put like a fatha on it. Okay. So try to think of it as you start with the ayn and then you kind of like dive and you kind of like swimming until you get to the ra. So there's no movement. So you jump in the water and you're just like, you know, gliding, I guess, right? No movement whatsoever. Floating, whatever, until you get to the ra. Wal asr. Wal asr. Okay, not wal asr. Even if there's slight haraka there, then it's wrong. Same thing, khusr. Okay, now So there's only one exception in this. That was easy, right? If the ra sakina is preceded by a ya sakina, it will always, look here, you see it's highlighted? I mean, it's in capital. Here, let me even do this here just to help you out. If the ra sakina is preceded by a ya sakina, it will always, always, always be read with tarqeeq. Look here, I'm stopping on it, therefore ra has sukoon. The letter before it is a ya with a sukoon. Okay, therefore it's going to be read with tarqeeq. Khayr, khabir, and this will only apply during waqf, of course. So we don't care about the haraka here. So look here, it's supposed to be heavy, right? Because look, the letter has a fatha. It should be khayr, but it isn't because this is an exception. Now during wasl, the ra becomes mutaharrik and the rules of ra mutaharrika will apply. That makes sense. Okay, so this is the only exception in the third scenario. What is it again? If the ra has sukoon, the letter before it is a ya with a sukoon, then it doesn't matter what it is before. If it's a fatha dhamma before the ya, it's always going to be light, okay, like khayr, and it's not going to be khayr. It's always going to be tarqeeq, empty mouth, khayr, khayr. And this only happens when you're stopping. If you continue and you see the ra has two dhammas, then it's going to be heavy. Khayrun, khabirun. If there's a kasra, khabirin, khabiri, it will be light. Or khayri, for example. Okay, now I'm going to go back to scenario number 2. So that was easy. Again, we have that same principle, right? We have, if it's a fatha dhamma heavy, kasra light, that's easy. Okay, so we did this, remember? We did this here. Now we're going to do the exceptions. So number 1 exception, if the kasra is temporary. What does that mean? So look here, this hamza, a very quick and easy way to know. If you look in the Mus'haf or in the Quran, if it has a little hamza, an actual hamza, look here. If you look in the Mus'haf, you'll see it. It actually has a hamza on top of it. This is called hamzatul qata'. Qata'. Qaf, ta, ayn. Qaf, ta, ayn. Hamzatul qata'. Whereas this one here, it does not have a hamza. It's called hamzatul wasl. Wasl means to join, right? What does that mean? That the letter or the word before it can join this, okay? Now look here. Okay, yeah, sure. I guess let's add a wow here just to make it easy. Okay, look here. There's a wow with a fatha. It should have a fatha here. And then ana. So this is ana and this is wa ana. If I join here, I have to pronounce the hamza. I have to say wa ana. Likewise, or not likewise, this is hamzatul wasl, mean it's a temporary kasra. Therefore, it's only temporary. What does temporary mean? It's not there all the time, okay? So if I join, it will be wadhhab and not wa'adhhab. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Just let me know right now because I'm going to continue. I shouldn't have erased that. Anyways, that's fine. Okay, so look, irji'i. Contrary to the rule, the ra sakina will be pronounced with tarqeeq if preceded by kasra. The ra will be read with tafkheem. Okay. So look here, irji'i. The ra has sukoon, the letter before it has a kasra. What should we do? Heavy or light?
Light.
Good. So the rule says it should be irji'i, but it isn't. Why? Because it's a temporary kasra. It's a hamzatul wasl, meaning that if you bring or the letter before it, if it has if the letter before it can connect to it, then it will be what? It will be, okay, because hamzatul wasl. Actually, if you look in the Quran in Surah Al-Fajr, it's there, the ayah. Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna turji'i. So this is the actual ayah. You can actually connect it. Someone has a question, you can ask. Yes, fine. Yeah, go ahead. Right, in Surah Al-Fajr, it's actually mutma'inna. If you stop, that's fine. Mutma'inna, and then join irji'i. But if you want to continue, it will be مطمئنة ترجعي. Okay, that's what it says down here. An easy way to check whether the kasra is temporary or not, meaning hamzatul wasl, is to join it to what's before it. If the kasra is not pronounced when joining, then it is temporary. So in this example, we don't pronounce the hamza here. If we join turji'i, you just read the ta directly to the ra. Turji'i. You didn't say tu irji'i. If you remember the example wa ana, you always have to pronounce the hamza in if it's permanent or hamzatul qata', right? So if it's not pronounced when joining, then it's temporary. If the kasra is read, whether joining or starting from it, then it's permanent, like ana. It doesn't matter what you do, you're always going to pronounce ana. Another example I'll give you before we move on. I need a volunteer here, someone volunteer. Someone open their mic and just read the first part, Bismillahi.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Okay, and now read the second part.
Alhamdulillah.
So you read the hamza, right? Okay. Now, how do you know? Is this hamza here? Is it permanent or temporary? How do you know? An easy way to know is if you just look on top of it. That's fine. But another way it says here is that you bring the word before and join it. Can you join? Now read together.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah.
If you did that, then you did it wrong. Okay. So it actually should join. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. And if it joins, then what? Then that means it's temporary. Okay. So I'm just explaining to you what hamzatul wasl is, what's temporary and what's permanent. So here in this case, the meme joined, right? And you did not read the hamza. Therefore, it's hamzatul wasl, it's temporary. And therefore, in this case, if it was a ra, then it would be what? It would be read heavy and not light. Okay, it doesn't matter. Even though the meme had a kasra, it still would be heavy. Okay. Number 2, second exception.
Excuse me, teacher. I could not differentiate permanent hamza and temporary.
So temporary hamza is, or let's actually, permanent hamza is the hamza will always be read no matter what. It will always be read. Even if you bring a letter before it and you try to join it, the hamza will always be read, okay? Whereas the example I just gave here, can I bring it back? So look at this example here. I'll do it one more time. I think this was a good example, actually. Let me... Yeah. Okay, so who asked the question? What's your name?
Kalsum.
Okay, so Sister Kalthum, I want you to follow along with me, please.
Yes.
Look at, do you see this here? What is this?
Alif or hamza.
Well, it's only one. It can be both. Is it hamza or alif?
It's alif.
It's hamza.
It's hamza. Okay.
Alif is to stretch something, right? Okay. So now, how do you read this word here? Just this word.
Bismillah.
Someone asked the question. The class will end in about 15 minutes, inshallah. Yeah. You say Bismillah, right? Did you pronounce it here?
No.
Okay. Now let's say this Bism was not here, and you're just starting from here. How do you say it?
Allah.
Okay. So did you pronounce the hamza?
Yes. Now.
You did. So when you connected it, when you joined it, you didn't read it, right? You said Bismillah. So what does that mean? The hamza is temporary.
Okay.
But if it was always there, like if you always had to read the hamza, then it would be permanent, like ana. Okay. It doesn't matter what you bring before it, it's always going to be read. Does that make sense now?
Yes. Now, when we say Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, these all hamza are, we are not reading. These are temporary. But after Rahim, then we say Alhamdulillah. Here it is permanent.
No, it's not permanent, because if you join, if you remember the example, the brother, if you join it, the meme, you're going to say, oh, this is wrong. It should be alhamdu, sorry.
When we join it,
should be-
then
Yeah, it
and
should
if we do not join it, then if
Oh,
we
it
stop
doesn't matter.
here.
Look here, look at the note. An easy way to check whether the kasra is temporary or not is to join it. So if you join it and you do not pronounce the hamza, it's temporary. But if you join it, and let's say, for example, you were to join it and you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdu, then it would be permanent.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Right.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Okay, second exception. If the ra sakina is followed. Okay, now what we're talking about is followed. We're not looking before, we're looking this way, after. Okay, so this is behind, by the way, this is forward. I know it's confusing in the video. Okay, so anyways, we're looking at the letter after it. So if the ra sakina is followed by a letter of isti'la, what are the letters of isti'la? Can someone tell me?
Swad, Dod, Ta, and Za.
There's 7.
Sorry. Yes.
Remember this?
خاصة
Excellent. If you remember this, you'll know it. So look here. If the ra sakina, meaning ra with sukoon, is followed by a letter of isti'la in the same word, keep this in mind, same word, okay? It has to be same word. Very important. Then what? Then it's going to be read what? Heavy. So contrary to the rule, it will be read heavy, Tafkheem. Look here. Ra with sukoon before there's a letter with a kasra. Normally, we would read light. We would say mirsad and irsad and labil mirsad and firqa and qirtas. However, contrary to the rule, they're going to be read heavy. Why? Because the letter after it is heavy. It's one of the letters of isti'la. And by the way, these are the only examples in the Quran. So they're going to be read heavy. Mirsad, irsad, labil mirsad, firqa, qirtas. Okay? So this is contrary to the rule. That's the second exception. I think that was clear. That's not too difficult, right? Note, okay, this is why I said in the same word. We will add the condition in the same word to exclude words like fasbir, sabra, and anzir qawmak, wa la tusa'ir, and so on, in which the ra will be read with tarqeeq because the letter of isti'la following it is in the next word. Okay, look here, the ra with sukoon preceded by ba with kasra. So what should we do? Someone tell me? Is this going to be light or heavy? Fasbir or fasbil? Can someone?
Light.
It will be light.
It will be light. Good. That's good. Yes. But after that, there is a sad. So didn't we just learn that it should be heavy, contrary to the rule?
Yes. Now it will be heavy. Sabr.
Gotcha.
Anzir qawmaka. Ra is sukoon before there's a dal with a kasra. So now, so don't look at qawmaka, just look at anzir. This should be light because there's a letter before it has a kasra. Anzir. However, there's a qaf, which is one of the letters of isti'la. Therefore, it's going to be heavy. The ra will be heavy. Anzir qawmaka. Am I correct?
No, because it's a different word.
Thank you. So that's what we have to understand. In the same word, these are 2 different words. Anzir is one word. Qawmaka is a different word. وَلَا تُصَعِّرْ one word, قَدَّكَ another word, therefore the exception will not apply. It has to be in one word only. Okay, number 3, or third exception, if the ra sakina and kasra, the ra sakina and kasra must be in one word. So this is similar. If they are in 2 different words, the ra will be pronounced with tafkheem, okay? So look here, ra with sukoon, before there's a ba with a kasra, therefore it should be light, right? But because there are 2 different words, therefore the ra will be heavy. By the way, this is similar to the one I explained before. This hamza is wasl, right? Therefore it's going to be heavy. These are all hamzatul wasl. So if you remember what I told you before, the temporary hamza, if you join it, you're not going to read the hamza, it's going to be heavy anyway. So if you understood that, you'll understand this. Look here, in these words here, the kasra before the ra sakina is temporary. This is what I just said. And it's in a different word to the ra sakina. Therefore, it will be read with Tafkheem. And these are the only examples of it in the Quran. Amir tabu, ra sakina preceded by a kasra. It should be light, but because it's in 2 words and the hamza is obviously temporary. Why do we know it's temporary? Because when we join it, we're not going to pronounce the hamza. Amir tabu is going to be heavy. Manir taba, limanir taba, inir tabatum. And these are the only examples in the Quran. Note, the ra mushaddada upon which waqaf is made will be read with tafkheem if it's preceded by fatha dhamma. Same rule. Ayn al-mafar, ra. And before there's a fatha, it's going to be heavy. Before there's a fatha, heavy. Before that, there's a kasra, light. Okay? So, ayn al-mafar, al-mustaqar, what is the word here? Mustaqir and mustamir. Okay. So, in these 2, the ra will be light because before there's a kasra, and these 2 it will be heavy because the letter before has a fatha. This is similar to the same rule, right? If there's a fatha, dhamma, heavy, kasra, light. One thing I'm going to add here is because there's a shadda, if you just say ayn al-mafar, then it's like you did this here. Look at here. So we have 2. Okay, ayn al-ma. Sorry, let me write this. Ayn al-ma. Oh. Okay, look here. First one. Okay, can I get a volunteer who can read these, please? So first ra is sukoon, and second one has a shadda. Yeah, go ahead. And I want you to stop on both. So don't worry about the dhamma on the second. Go ahead, Jamil. Miss Jamil. Anyone?
أين المقر؟
No, this is a fa. This is a fa. Ayn
مفر.
Okay, first one, ayn al-mafar. So the ra is heavy. Second one?
أين المفر؟
Okay, so see, there's no difference then, right? Because they're both sukoon. I mean, you're stopping on them, so it's like they're both have a sakin or sukoon on them. However, the second one has a shadda. So how do you show the difference? You have to add a stress on the letter before it. So the letter before is the fa, in this case. So you're going to say, al-mafar. Look here, al-mustaqar. You're going to add a stress on the letter before, which is the qaf, al-mustaqar. And the meme here, mustamir. Okay, so you're going to add a little stress or emphasis on the letter before just to show that there is a shadda there. Because if you just say mustamir, it's as if there is a sukoon, right? So you have to add a stress before and say mustamir. Okay, I hope that made sense. Okay, so actually that is that's it. Alhamdulillah, we've done the full ra. Here's a nice summary for you. Ra mutaharrika, sakina. You can read this by yourself, and then you have 3 exceptions. And that was amazing, alhamdulillah. I did not think we were going to complete, the full rules of ra as well as the alif, so alhamdulillah. The rest of the book is very easy, by the way. The bulk of tajweed, most people when they start tajweed, they go to these rules here, ikhfa, idgham, idhar, and that's all they know. But to be really proficient in reciting the Quran, you have to know the makharij and sifat. Okay, that's why we took a long time to do that. Inshallah, we're going to have a lot of practice on it, but if you know the makharij and sifat and you're practicing daily, then inshallah, you're going to be a proficient reciter, because the rest of the rules are very easy. We like to focus on these a lot. These are very simple. And this is the rest of the book. We just have these, and then we have med and we have waqf. So inshallah, we're going to finish soon. Inshallah, we're going to finish the book soon. Do we have any questions? I want to stop the share here, and we can pause the recording, inshallah.